Okay, this is Roski Mascani. On the line, I have Brother Iration and Brother Remy. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do an analytical dialogue of the Neely Fuller Show from August 11th, 2020. 20th. It was a excellent show, and we're going to do the first hour. It's a 2-hour show, so we're going to do the first hour because it was so much information that was covered. A lot of people called into the show and asked some great questions, and Neely Fuller responded excellently. So all the information that I'm going to read is not going to be exact, but it's going to kind of closely mirror what he was talking about. So let me go ahead. Brother Iration, you online?
Yes, sir.
Brother Remy, you here?
Yeah, I'm accounted for.
Okay, cool. So let me take the first part of the information to discuss here. So it was a question raised to Neely Fuller regarding forgiveness. And then it quickly took Neely Fuller in another direction to Christianity. Mr. Fuller said he was told that he was a Christian, but he didn't know if he qualified to be one. He got baptized and basically was confused by all the information given to him by multiple sources. He wanted to know what a Christian was, but could never get the correct information about that. You know, he got multiple, explanations and things of that nature. So he stopped calling himself a Christian, he said, and he came up with the alternative to Christianity, which was it's a compensatory religion called eclectic pluralism. This religion is designed to search for the true religion. So we'll start off with, since Brother Remy is on the line, we'll start off with him and then we go to Brother Iration. So go ahead, Remy, kind of talk about the Christianity and the eclectic pluralism as you see it.
Well, I mean, I didn't actually listen to the dialogue with Neely Fuller. I'm familiar with Mr. Fuller, which is a good thing.
Well, let me just say this. It was a show, and he just basically what I read. He just basically said that he was confused about Christianity, and he kept getting different explanations. So now he said he came up with a compensatory religion, which is eclectic pluralism.
Right.
Okay.
And and knowing Neely Fuller, the way I know Neely Fuller, I got familiar with Neely probably back in the 80s, the late 80s or something. I'm not sure when it was. But, him and Dr. Welsing, they collaborated on some things and discussed some things. But, I think man on the planet, conscious people, and just people in general, we in search for the truth, and a lot of times people are led astray, in terms of what's real and what's not, what is your belief, I truly believe like we're born in this world and we're pretty much indoctrinated into what our parents or our people around us teaches us. And basically we follow a pattern. When I was born and raised and coming up, I think I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old. I was a Catholic because born and raised up in Louisiana, you got a lot of Catholics down here. So in other words, we took on a religion that was pretty much prevalent among the it was a cultural thing, it was cultural, it was religion, and it was something that we just took on as a people, and so it was passed on to me. And I went to catechism and things like that. And what I learned in those things, there was a lot of discipline, hey, don't do this, don't do that, that kind of thing. And so it kind of set up my understanding because I leaned back on that even though I don't declare myself a Catholic at this time, but let my grandmother tell it: once a Catholic, always a Catholic. But when it comes to religion, in general, well, you mentioned in Christianity, so I'll stick to that point but the eclectic, I these segment, I think that my take on it is that you have various religions, you have different religions, and so I think that we are in search of the truth. But again, our time on this planet is very, we're very limited. We only been on this planet, 50, 60 years or whatever, that type of thing. So what we learned in that time frame, we've been through all kind of transitions. So it just seems like Neely is trying to account for, or not trying to exclude, or he's in search of the truth. So in the meantime, let me reflect back. You remember Dr. Green was at Compton College, philosophy teacher.
Sir.
And
yes.
I took Dr. Green. I took a class, and I was an older student at the time, because when I was 17, 18, 19 years old, didn't take college seriously because, I understood school and all that, whatever, but I was an athlete all my life, played a lot of football and things like that. And then, and of course, I decided to go to the university, went to the university, not sure what I wanted to do. And so later on in life, when I went back to finish up my degree, and I was more of a serious scholar. I heard Brother Iration talk about his studies and things, Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark, and we can talk about a whole bunch of folks that we came in contact with through conferences and readings and different things like that, which has helped us grow to, give us a perspective and route to that truth, So I said all that to say, was able to go through the past. I count a blessing is something that I when I come in contact with it, and it gives me power, it gives me strength, it gives me perspective. And Dr. Green was a philosophy teacher, and he shared Plato and Socrates, but it was just not Western civilization. He had African civilization philosophy as well. And so it was an intro class, but I said all that to say, he made a comment back to Christianity. He made a comment about He said, he talked about the Muslim religion. He talked about this religion. He said Christianity is probably the closest to the truth. And what he meant by that was, I guess, when you talk about thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not mess with the next man's wife, thou shalt not do this and do that. And then other ways of life and tenets and just a way of life and how you carry yourself. And so he said, so I think even Dr. Neely is more like a philosopher in his own way, to where he tries to keep it simple. And so in other words, so it's kind of like I've adopted that kind of eclectic pluralism type of, and this is just my take. I had never listened to Dr. Fuller on this particular that segment, but I'm a guess that what he meant was, and I'm in agreement with, because it's more like, it's kind of like what you're exposed to, what you come in contact with every day is relative to your own experience, and how you your beliefs are relative to your own experiences and things like that. So if you become a Muslim or whatever, or you become a Christian, like you say, what is that? What are you doing? So my thing is, it's like, I don't have a problem with any other religions or people. I don't, I'm more of a non-denominational. I'm not an agnostic. I'm not or atheist or anything like that. I do, well, they say an agnostic might believe in a higher power, but it's not necessarily Christianity or Muslim. They have their own. And then, of course, the atheists don't believe in anything. They don't believe in a higher power, that kind of thing. They believe in what they believe in. So my thing is, do we get caught up into that? Do we get caught up in the dogma? Do we get caught up in the religious dogma? Do we get caught up in who's better, or if you're not going to hell and this and that or whatever, So, but again, I'm not, for this particular topic, I can, more or less, I can freestyle in terms of like my approach as far as Christianity goes. Is like I joined the church here, and you know me very well, Rasaki, that my take on for years, it's like, man, I'm not going to get involved in, that because, more or less, like preachers, having faith, I believe they're a man just like I am. I don't think, God has ordained people and things like that, but I think we truly all could be ordained. We all can, and we don't have to be in competition with one another. So I think they've made, some aspects have been weaponized. Some aspects have just been, to profitize, to make profits. Some, it's multidimensional, so it's kind of like it's so intricate and interwoven to, in society to where, basically where I'm at in this particular life is like, you know what? I don't have a problem. If you're talking about love, peace, happiness, those basic adjectives or whatever, that we're talking about. If you're talking about, describing, our emotional system, our physical self, all those things, if those contribute to my emotional peace, my physical peace, I don't have a problem with any of it, And I tell you, I used to pull in at the airport when I fly in somewhere back in the day, and those Hare Krishnas will be there with a little like some kind of funny looking haircut, and they're trying to give you a book, and they talking about, hey brother, I love you. Oh, I love you too, man. You have a good day. Here's a book. Okay, thanks. Move on. So all I'm saying is that the conversation for me is more or less that I'm not into bad mouthing. My wife, she's I don't want to call anybody devout, but she's serious about her faith, and it helps her, and it's relative to her emotional system in terms of like, hey, like today, you told me to chime in, so I'm moving forward. I'm working on a house, and a car exploded in front of the house. And it was just rolling down the street, and it was an explosion. So at the end of the day, after the smoke cleared and everything was over, we made it back home. My wife said, "Look at God. That's God. God took care of us. You could have been this," and I couldn't argue with her. I couldn't. It's like I could have been out in that yard because like 5 minutes later. So what I'm saying is, I'm not going to sit there and try to analyze and say, well, that wasn't God. That wasn't. No. So my point is I accept anything. If you look at the 10 Commandments, there was commandments made probably, hundreds or thousands of years before that. It's the basic tenets of how you conduct yourself in life, and they took it, they spin it off and added, might have shortened it or whatever. I'm not in the competition anymore. I'm not into trying to say, well, who's blacker than who and who's better than who. What I am against is somebody trying to tell me that, somebody tell me, if you don't do this, you ain't going to heaven. Or if you don't, and so I think even some preachers to this day have changed their message in terms of like trying to beat up on you and tell you, because it's not, first of all, it's not good business. From a business standpoint, you're going to lose folks if you try to beat up on them and always talking about the sky is falling and things like that. And if you look at the preachers that are on TV today, Joel Osteen, and I'm talking about the guys that are out there. If you look at, I forget the lady's name, and they're white folks. It don't matter. The point is they making comment about it's all about, hey, it's all about self-preservation. It's all about self-motivation. It's all about, hey, start over again and get back up and do what you got to do. And I can see and I can listen to that. But I listen to a lot of things. So back to this eclectic pluralism, back to Neely, I think more or less, it's kind of like I don't think he's trying to side with anybody. I think that he's trying to give room to like, hey, I'm kind of like, I'm a multi-dimensional creature. I'm not saying I'm this, I'm that, and I think that as long as it lines up, I'm talking about, if you're talking about love, if you're talking about real, if you're talking about peace, and all the other things that go with that, I'm good with it, because I think what happens is it retards my growth to get, see, when I was younger, I didn't know the things that I know at this age of my life, so I didn't think like that. I mean, I was a revolutionary when I was young, I mean, I was literally, about, I was involved in, all kind of different things, trying to make change and things. I don't get me wrong, I'm still about making change, but I've organized.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For the sake of time, I want to see if Brother Ray Iration have something to say about this. Iration.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Do you have anything to say about eclectic pluralism or Christianity?
Well, I'm just gonna go what Neely Fuller was, and what he was trying to say is, what is Christianity? Who defines it? And who qualifies to tell you whether you're a Christian or what it is to become a Christian, and what does religion require of me? So I can kind of relate to him and even to our brother here. When I was growing up, I was told I was a Baptist. So for years, when I would fill out an application or anything, I would just put Baptist on there. But at the time, I had no idea what a Baptist was. That's just the household I grew up in.
Right.
But as I started to get older and started to learn and read, and matter of fact, even after I went through college and finished high school and got college and been fighting out in this world out here, I started coming across the scholars, and I started getting information and knowledge that I would never have gotten in this European educational system. So these scholars helped my growth. They helped open my knowledge of awareness. And so what they did, they opened up a door for me. And from that point on, man, I was interested in learning. I started reading. I started doing my own research. So if somebody gave me some information, I didn't cut it off. I wanted to see what I could learn. But if I didn't, I was not afraid to go ahead and do some research to try to validate. And so at some point in time, you got to pay attention to some things, and you got to think. And like for me, if a person want to be a Christian, if they want to be a Muslim, whatever they want to be, they can. If they want to worship a rock or a frog, I'm fine as long as they treat me. I deal with them based on how they interact with me. But I mean, I've seen some things with Christianity that, and it's not true for all. But I mean, they're killing people in the name of Jesus, in the name of God, and dropping bombs on people and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm like, what kind of God does that? To me, that's the work of evil people. That's not the work of a God.
Right.
So, so I think at some point in time we have to do the math, and I think common sense, logic, and sound right reasoning, all play a part. And, we're constantly learning and we're developing while we're on this planet. And I think Neely Fuller just has an approach that just, whatever he say, he's giving it to you as truthful as he can come with it, without disrespecting anybody or pushing anybody over, but he's asking questions, and questions sometimes will take you where you need to be. Okay, what do your religion require of me? Who qualifies to tell me what it needs for me to do to be a Christian? What qualifies to be a Christian? What qualifies to be a Muslim? Who does what? We're all still learning from everybody. So I think that's where I'm at with it.
Okay, well, let's move on. Okay, a lot was said. I mean, it's going to take us where we need to go as long as we live in here together. So we if we're in true search of what we should be doing versus what we want to do, I think we'll be all right. So let me move on to the next point here. So another question was raised to Neely Fuller, which led him to say that all people are seriously flawed due to the system we're in, which is a wartime system. He said, look in the mirror. We are used to our flaws. An example would be blacks shooting blacks. It's a common place. So, Brother Remy, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, how can I follow that? You know, I mean, you know, Mr. Really, I mean, that's well understood. Things like I say, things are weaponized. Like I say, religion, education, criminal justice system, everything. So at the end of the day, I'll say this: is that you talking about our wait. Run that by me again. How Neely put that.
He said we're seriously flawed. Basically, we're in a wartime system. He said, look in the mirror. We are used to our flaws. Sure. So our habits, if our habits are flaws, we're used to it. And he just said one example would be blacks shooting blacks. He said and he said in another thing he said that usually people kill what they hate, and he said black people hate themselves. He even has said that before.
Right. Yeah, and that's true. I think that basically the world that, again, back to our indoctrination, back to who we are as a people, back to your upbringing, and what you've been taught. And what I find out, I got years in criminal justice, years in education, among other things. And the conclusion that I draw is that he's absolutely correct. We're flawed, as a people, and everybody to a certain degree. But I'm saying mainstream. If you want to talk about our youth, what's going on in the world today, and with what's been going on, you're absolutely right. When it comes to drive-by shootings and taking life, you don't have value on life, So what happens is a value system. And so basically, in a nutshell, if you're talking about, those flaws, which is big, of course, is that, a lot of children, a lot of youngsters, they don't value life. They don't value their own life. They're conditioned, they have a flawed understanding, and they have a misconception, a misperception, miseducated, misguided, and so therefore, what you're witnessing is the fallout. It's nothing but fallout or the residue of the deeper issue. It comes to a head. In other words, if you have like a sore on your knee or somewhere, and it gets full with pus, it gets infected. Eventually, it comes to a head where it starts dripping out, and it starts revealing itself that this is an infection. So our people are infected, and it's like my dad used to say, it's by design, because, if back to the Christianity talk, in a lot of other religions, if we are our brother's keeper, and meaning that's what that means. It's like we're going to look out for one another. We're going to support one another. But you and I, all of us know that, it's a lot of times it's dog eat dog world. It's eye for an eye. It's you're on your own. And so what I've been witnessing is, the overtime and that I've been putting into what I do as a professional is trying to offset some of these flawed ways by trying to bring them into the light. What is the light? Just bring them into truth, and it's basic again, but I agree with Neely Fuller in terms of, flawed, they're conditioned, and they're not being fed properly. Their minds are not being fed properly, and I had to, I think my upbringing and my desire to want to do better at a certain point to where take my game to another level, it was almost like, and it's just, I don't subscribe to this, but it's kind of like I had to almost pull myself up by my own bootstraps, You know, like they say, how you gonna do that when you don't have no boots? But my point is, I'm saying that loosely. I'm not into that bootstrap theory. Don't get it twisted. But I'm saying is in terms of me resurrecting myself, my way of thinking, and so I try to let the next one know, especially the youngsters, that hey, if I can do it, you can do it. If this is information that you need. So anyway, the bottom line is, talking about something that Neely Fuller said, as it relates to being a flawed individual or flawed, yeah, of course, without question that the society we live in, I heard Brother Iration talk about, the Western world, white supremacy, all that stuff is real. It's systemic. It's laced in the roots of the fiber of America. Me and my son was just having a conversation about, we were riding through the country today taking care of some business, and we saw a bunch of fences being built and different things. I said, who built all this stuff? And, of course, it was a simple, profound question, but it was really true. It's like, man, this thing in the South, this is where we're at. Slaves built a lot of things, plantations, and I talk about the state capitol. If you go down to the state capitol. So anyway, all I'm saying is, we have been disenfranchised. We've been worked over as a people, and it spills over into the other thing about reparations, and that's another day, another topic. But the point is, it's kind of like, people say, well, we wasn't slaves or whatever. No, you have a direct issue from that. You are flawed because you're taught that this is where you stay in your lane. This is civil rights. All the different things that people have been doing over the years in terms of trying to get their due. I tell you what, that's the struggle. So why do we have to struggle? That kind of thing. So that all plays into it, and so some people give up. Some people get tired. And then at the same time, some people don't even know. They don't participate in trying to come up because they don't know how to. It's not being taught in their households, things like that, where they, like I say, they're misguided. Their thinking is off. They're conditioned. And so, yeah, it's going to create a flawed situation. So blacks killing blacks, sure. You bring the drug game, intensified that. So let's make money off of them, So, of course, people take chances. Everybody wants the American dream. So I'm going to sell some dope because, and when I get a felony, I'm definitely not going to get a job. So I got to stay in the game. I got to play cat and mouse, and I'll be a part of this recidivism rate, So I'm going over and over and back and forth because this is, it's very intricate. It's very, like I say, it's we talking about, but all of that's responsible. All of that is part of the conditioning. Let's go back to the religion and everything. It's part of keeping you at bay, keeping you from being a businessman. Look what you're taught from K through 12. You're not taught financial literacy unless you have some private school or maybe some nice charter school, or it could be a public school. It could be somewhere, but overall, I'm just saying, especially in the inner city, things aren't being taught. And so you're not being taught to compete or to be a part of, what they're trying to promote. Hey, you want to be a property owner? Well, that's why I spend time with my son and my nephew talking about interest rates and mortgages and just the jargon, so having that conversation, giving them books to read on real estate per se, or other things, not just real estate, but just, you got to be aware, the stock market, I got a little account. I stopped putting into it. It had like 18,000 in it. I look up, it got 28,000 in it. But I read the report, and I'm like, wow, and I share it. I said, you see what this did? This was just something I had opened up a while back, and it didn't grew. Now it can go back down, but just understanding, it's like playing sports. You trying to play you going in there you're on a football team, but you've been taught how to play hopscotch. You playing hopscotch, and it's a football game. You don't have the understanding to compete. you don't have the tools to compete. Therefore, your self-esteem is down. You're not going to raise your hand in the class to conversate. So anyway, you asked me to talk. That's what I'm saying. It's all interwoven. It's intricate, man. It's not just a one size fit all. Everybody got their own issues and their own. What life is relative to their own experience, but there is some commonalities in that we all go through. And it's you can be who you are, but you got to understand some tenets, some understanding, some protocol. And so that's where I come in to the best of my ability within my path of life, is to try to, instill something that's going to, hey, there's a storm over there. I'm going to try to get you to at least turn this way so you won't be affected by the storm. I mean, I'm not the omnipotent one. But go ahead,
all right,
sir.
So let's move on. All right, Brother Iration.
Move on, brother.
Yes, sir.
Brother,
well,
come on and chime in on that.
Oh, he's hitting the nail right on the head. And I tell people, I said, listen, even though I went and got a college degree, they didn't teach me the things I know. They didn't prepare me to be able to make it out here in this world. And I ask people, and these are people, man, that, sometimes are not, they have no historical base, or, they're just black and flawed, like Neely was saying. I said, how many of you guys know anybody that went to school with the Bushes, went to school with the Kennedys, went to school with the Obamas? Those people and their proteges are taught how to run the world. We taught how to build everything for them and be underneath them. So there's a gigantic difference. So when I got out of college, man, I went for a job interview, and they told me, well, you don't have enough experience. Well, I'm like, well, how can I get some experience if I don't have a job? So this educational system is not preparing us. Everything is by design, and sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone to be able to grow. And when you're talking to people and you're giving them information that's out of their realm of knowledge or their comfort zone, a lot of people will attack you, they shut you down, or they cut you off. You got people that will cut you up, and you're trying to give them life-saving information. Now, if you're telling me, Brother Iration, when you walk out your door, there's a rattlesnake right there, I'm going to take you serious, okay? I'm going to try to go out the back door. I'm going to at least check it out. Now, if it ain't there, okay, that's fine, but at least you gave me notice. So just the different mindsets, man, and you got this television. This television molds a lot of people's thinking. This news media does a lot of people in. And a lot of people cannot see through all the malarkey that's being presented to them. And you look up, you're 40, 50, 60 years old, and some people still don't have a clue as to about what's going on. I'll give you an example. Man, I stopped at Home Depot to get some material the other day. And they were running out. The shelves are empty. So I talked to the guy. He said, well, man, we're just not getting it in. But he said, man, the people are coming in here. They're cursing me out. And they're mad because we don't have stuff. And the guy said, listen, they just don't understand what's going on in the world. Look, the trucks are not coming in. They're not delivering goods. And we're out of stuff. What you want us to do? You can't get mad at me. But a lot of people cannot connect the dots on what's going on. These people that run this country and give us this information, they've been known to lie. How do you control millions of people? You can control them through deception. You can control them through fear, deceit, and fear, and deception. So the whole thing is deep, and I'm with my brother Remy. This stuff is by design. And I heard somebody say one time with slavery, they were saying that, if we do this thing right, we can just, it'll just be self-perpetuating. It'll just keep going. All we got to do is do the right things. So these people study us, man. They study us. They know us better than some of our people do.
I say that all the time, it's because go ahead. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut in.
It's okay. No, go ahead. You can chime in.
Go ahead. I'm just saying. Yeah, I agree because it's more or less and you were referring to the Willie Lynch letters, where they said how they put everybody to light and the dark and this and that, and then there's schools of thought say, it wasn't no Willie Lynch letters. My thing is whether it was or not. The game that's being played is dead on that. So back to the religion thing. I don't have to get caught up in the dogma. It's because I got my own little theory. Is like when you get hungry, you get hunger pains, and you physically, your stomach lets you know, hey, you're hungry. My spirit let me know what's real and what's not. And I'm not saying it's 100%, but it leads me in a direction to say, hey, you better research this, and you better pay attention to this. Alarms may be going off and different things like that, and where I'm paying attention to it. And I consider myself a skeptic sometimes first because of the fact that these days it's hard to trust a lot of things, but I'm nowhere near a paranoid person, right, where I'm scared to, I'm not in fear to do things, but you got to be cautious in this world. But like you said, you have your consumers, and you got your brokers, you got your people who are your producers, and the system is designed to where, hey, they don't want you to have a mom and pop store. They want a Walmart in your area, and then that sucks up the mom and pop stores. They don't want you to have a Black Wall Street, because we want you niggas to buy from us. See, down here in the South, down here in Bogalusa, in a town called Bogalusa, back in the day, they had they had protests and things like that, and the black people decided to boycott downtown Bogalusa because of the fact that, and I wasn't here, of course, but I got relatives that was involved in that. And you can look up the Deacons of Defense and all those kind of things if you're not privy of that understanding. But the Deacons of Defense was nothing but the warriors who protected the people that were involved in the movement. They were more or less the brothers and sisters who protected, because it was it was a population of clan. I think pound for pound, the biggest Ku Klux Klan stronghold in the world, they said. Pound for pound, I'm saying, in this area that I'm talking about, where I actually have property at now. My people live there now. And so, but nowadays it's a little different. You don't see the flags flying and all that too much, and it's not, you don't see any crosses burning. But the point is, back in the day, they were trying to drink out the water fountain. They wanted to eat at the walk through the front door to order some food. So they were basically demonstrating and those type of things, wanting to be a part of it. And then you have schools of thought. They say, wait a minute, why are you begging to be the white man's friend anyway? Well, and you can get caught up in that little thing. But see, the better part of me, maybe back in the day, I might have said something like that. But what I truly believe is, it's like, you know what? It's not so much I want to eat at your counter. I want you to just be fair, because what happens is the banking systems, of course, you can refer to Black Wall Street and all these different times or whatever, but generally speaking, when the federal government is and we're all taxpayers, the ones that work. And so I'm talking about state and federal taxes. When your tax money is being taken from you, and you rely on a public school system just like everybody else, and you're getting an inferior education, that's a problem. So it's not that I want to go to school with you. I want to integrate with you, but I would like to have nice textbooks, that type of thing. So the point is, back to slavery. They used to beat the slave if they caught him with a book.
Right.
You better not get caught with a book. So it's kind of like you are a worker. That's all you are. And if you really be respectful and do what we tell you, we might make you a straw boss. We might make you. We might let you give you a gun, and you can manage the gun line, and you and you can be a house nigga if you want to, and that kind of thing, and we'll put you in the house and that kind of thing, and so it's easy for us to say, man, if I was back in them days, they wouldn't have did me like that. Well, you know what? I was one of them too. Man, I wouldn't have did it. I was young though. But when you realize that these people are serious and they talking about killing your kids and killing your wife and beating you down, man, it's got to be a terrible amount of fear, and a terrible amount of experiences in terms of, and the effect that it had on the humans, on the brothers and the sisters back then, now. But still, when slavery ended, whenever that did, and moving forward, and, I remember going through, I didn't go through it, but reading about it and understanding how I remember around, I think 1965, the watch riots. It seemed like in Compton, it seemed like after the riots, not just Compton, but just in general in LA, a lot of families broke up in the 60s and early 70s. A lot of fathers left home. I know mine got out of there in 72. It was just a lot of stress. I don't know, whatever was in the air, but it was part of it. But the point is, breakdown in the family, and all of that is part of that, those lynch letters, that whole ideal of weakening the it's like COINTELPRO of the 60s. Let's break these guys down. Let's break it down. J. Edgar Hoover said, what did they say in Malcolm X movie? That's too much power for one individual. In Spike Lee's movie where the cop, right before the commercial, every time, that's too much power for one man, because the brothers was organized and they said, we brother such and such is brother, and we not going nowhere. And then when they found out he was cool, he pointed one finger and they marched off. And he's like, wow, that blew their mind. So it's all about, you got organization and you got disorganization. It's all about keeping chaos. Let's keep chaos as a weapon. And so when we're chaotic, we'll kill each other. We'll do all kind of crazy stuff, and we can be frustrated. We'll have problems in our household because there's a constant flux of chaos. It's just, but anyway, so it all leads to, it can be a disaster. It can lead to whatever it leads to. So I'm just saying, so walking through this life, all of the above. I check all of the above. It's interwoven into all of this fallout, this residue of negativity that we experience. But how do we fix it, and what do we do? Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out now. I'm still on that mission of trying to resolve it, because each individual's differently. There's some common things that we can teach people and we can show people, but at the end of the day, some people have been affected so much that it becomes more of a psychological or an emotional issue, to where now you become medicated. Now you become, chemically imbalanced or whatever. Now that's a whole nother conversation down the road for, the podcast, but I'm just saying, so we're talking about our children being flawed, Of course, we were flawed too. I know, everybody is flawed.
Well, look,
until you, go ahead.
Brother Remy, he
Yes,
said
sir.
all people, not so much black, but he said all people are flawed due to the system. He talking about from the white supremacists.
Can I chime in on that?
Please do.
Just for a second. Also, when he's talking about all people, let me tell you what I think he's saying. Okay, listen. If you can create the power to go and drop bombs on innocent people, kill old people, dogs, cats in their home, you're a flawed individual. Now, I don't watch a whole lot of television, but I was watching, I watch corrupt crimes and this officer was on there was saying that this one guy had killed somebody, and he was saying basically, look, anybody that kills somebody is flawed or they have a sickness, I can agree with that to a certain extent, but if you're defending yourself actually in self-defense and you have to do that, then I'll have to give you some leeway. But now on the other side of the coin, I see them where the officers are killing people and just straight out lie. And it's okay. Oh, this guy called it. This guy had a gun. The same old story. But anyway, that I wanted to touch on. So I think that's what Neely meant by all people are flawed. You can be flawed by being robbed of knowledge, robbed of self, robbed of history. You're also flawed when you create the power to go ahead and damage and do people wrong. For instance, I had an opportunity to be an officer, and I changed my mind. I said, you know what? I can't go and write tickets to people and take money out of their pocket because that's not my makeup. So I said, you know what? I'll go ahead and do something else. But I'm saying, as an officer, if I seen someone homeless on the street, selling cigarettes, bombing or begging, there's no way I can go and beat you up and handcuff you and kill you and then turn around and lie. Where's the humanity in that? There is none. So we got to understand that these people that are running this planet right now, these people have some serious psychosis, and they don't feel like they can do any wrong. And when they do wrong, they figure they can just clean it up and feed you any kind of lie or anything. But as a real man, your common sense, your logic, and your sound right reason got to kick in. And even like Brother Remy was saying, your spirit inside of you will let you know. Listen, I was almost 50 before I actually started getting some real history. But there was a time when I would go through every radio station at night because I was seeking for something to feed me, to feed my mind. And I couldn't find it.
Information junkie.
Yeah, I was trying to find something that could feed me. And I couldn't find it. And now, man, I go through the internet, and one day I ran across this brother. He's a retired police officer. And the minister's name was Ray Hagan. And from Ray Hagan,
yeah.
Man, that kicked me off to all the other scholars. I started going to sleep at night with my internet on, listening to that brother or the DVDs, and then I started finding out about all the other scholars. I was on a mission to learn as much as I could and get as much information because I realized I had been deprived of this, and I would never get it in the schools that we go to. I didn't get none of it in college. So, that educational system is not designed. Well, to make it simple, the slave master is not going to never put you in a position where you're going to be in a better position than him or give you information that you can use that's better than him. So we got to understand that.
Yeah. Now, listen, I want to keep doing this. Do you two brothers have time? I got it's almost an hour in. I got to shut this down. Do you want me to call back and we keep going? Because we only covered like 2 questions or 3.
Call back, whatever you got to do.
Okay, well, we're going to end this, and we're about to start right back up.
Okay.
So, part 1 of the analytical dialogue has ended, and we will be back.
Peace.